guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to go through how I wrapped up my 2017 goal challenge and how I am incorporating my current goal challenge, which is the 101 and 1001, in both my collection bullet journal and in my personal bullet journal. So let's take a look at last year first. You guys might remember that in 2017, I was doing a 52 goals in 52 weeks challenge. So this was my original spread, and you guys might remember this from the last update I did on this. So if I completed the task, I did a little dot over here. As I finished them, I checked them off. And I did have, at one point, I did an update in the middle of the year for things that I had a feeling I wasn't going to get to, and so I replaced it with goals that I thought were going to be more feasible, more pertinent, what have you. So at the end of the year, I went through and I made a list of any of my outstanding goals from my 2017 goal challenge. And one thing that you might notice, or you might remember from my 101 and 1001 video, was that I did have certain goals that I had already pulled over into the new challenge, even though they were from 2017 and I hadn't actually finished them because I had started that goal challenge in September rather than waiting for January. I hope that made sense. So basically I pulled out any open goals, but I haven't actually done anything specifically with this list. So let's take a look at my 101 and 1001. Whoops, I'm gonna go ahead and put that back. So I have, whoopsie daisy, there we go. So I have my 101 and 1001, and you guys will remember I started it on September 1st, and it's gonna go through May 29th of 2020. So I've got a good long while to work on them. And I had already picked a couple of goals that I wanted to pull over into these different sections because I had a feeling I wasn't going to get through them in 2017. So what I am basically doing is any of the goals from 2017, I am not actually writing them into my 101 and 1001 yet. However, I am keeping this piece of paper in my collection bullet journal so that I can refer to it because I have enough goals, enough new goals that I wanted to work on, and the other goals that I didn't finish. I'm just gonna stick this right there. So I have enough new goals and enough goals that I didn't finish but that weren't super important. They were things that eventually I'd like to get to but weren't really high up on the priority list that I want to hold on to them, but I don't really want to incorporate them in here yet. I want to see kind of how this goes. So you'll notice I've got a couple of things done on each page. I need to actually go through and update this soon just to make sure that everything is all up to date. But I did actually go through, and on January 4th, I did an update. So I went through and I said, okay, how many goals in each section have I finished? So I did the number of goals I had complete and the number of total goals on the page. And I found out that I had already completed 24 out of the 101 goals, which I thought was doing pretty well. So this just lives in my collection bullet journal. What I've done for the new year and in my personal bullet journal is I've actually gone through, and in the front of my bullet journal, I left a spot so that, see if I can find it, there we go. I left a spot so that I could fill in some of the goals that I really wanted to work on in this particular bullet journal. So I did actually have a rhyme and a reason for doing the colors this way. Basically, each section that I had in my collection bullet journal, I switched colors after I changed sections. So for example, I pulled out 2 from my home goals, I pulled out 2 from my money goals, 2 from tech, and so on and so forth. So I did basically 2 to 3 goals-ish for each section so that I would have kind of a broad look at all of my goals. And I picked things that I thought, 2018, these are the things that I really want to work on in the first half of the year. And you'll see that I've actually already got 2 checked off, which means I need to then go and update in my collection bullet journal, which I have not done yet. But once I had pulled these out, these were kind of my big goals. What I wanted to do was pull a couple that I wanted to focus on each month. And so what I've done is, I'm gonna go ahead and open up February straight away, if I can find it. I'm gonna open up February. So for each month, and I did this for January as well, I have my goals for the month. So this is a combination of, for example, things that have been on my monthly for a while that I really want to focus on, things from my 101 and 1001, things that come up, deadline related things. For example, in January, I had all of my exams because I had, they were all due at the beginning of the month. So I had them on my goal list so that they were just front and center. So I do a combination of all of those, and I try and pull a couple of my 101 and 1001 goals each month to focus on here. So that means that when I go through and I fill out my goals, I really am, in February, I'm only looking at this page. And then whenever I'm ready to do a review, I'll flip back through and I'll look at my focus goals and say, okay, what have I actually accomplished? If I've accomplished any of these, then I'll go ahead and check them off. And then after I go through a little bit more, I go through and I will update in my 101 goals and 1001. So there is definitely a bit of redundancy. Honestly, almost any system that I have is going to have some kind of redundancy just because I feel more comfortable when I, dot the I's and cross the T's kind of thing. I just like to know that I've covered all my bases. And this also means that I don't really need to look at my collection bullet journal very often, because anything that I really need to look at for right now is in my personal bullet journal. And whenever I have a spare half hour that I want to go ahead and update everything, then I go ahead and I go in my collection bullet journal and I just make sure that everything is all up to date at once. That is basically the way that I am running my goal challenge for this year. I will mention just quickly that I also am doing another reading goal for the year. So for example, I have my reading goals as always. My goal for 2018 is to read 80 books, and let's see if I can find here we go. So I have my goal of 80 books for 2018. And so on my month, I just have my monthly goal, which is plus or minus 6 books per month. If I have a month where I read more, that's great. That'll help me get a little bit of ahead for months when I might not have as much time to read. But if I do about 6, then I should hit my 80 books by the end of the year. So I do have this on here. So not officially, but I have also made some smaller goals. So for example, let me pull my sticky note here. So last year, I made the goal that I wanted to read 15 books in French, read 1 book in Spanish and 1 book in Italian. I was actually able to accomplish for both French and Spanish. I did not read the book in Italian, and so I had already done my 101 goals in 1001 days before I thought about this. So I have this little sticky note that has my reading goals, where my goal is to read 15 books in French, possibly 20, read 1 more book in Spanish, possibly 3, and read 1 book in Italian. So I have to figure out how I want to actually work these in, but these are kind of minor reading goals, and so they don't really have a home yet, but they are essentially, aside from the general number, they are the only real goals I have. Otherwise, I kind of just read whatever suits me at the moment, whatever comes up in my overdrive list or what have you. But these are some extra reading goals that I do want to try and meet. So I just have a little sticky note that I keep right in the front here. I hope that this was not too long, hopefully was fairly clear for how I'm actually incorporating my 101 goals and 1001 days into my bullet journal, and how I'm trying to keep on top of over 100 goals and trying to actually work on getting them accomplished. So if you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them down below, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.